Good afternoon. Benefits and Services Committee is about to begin. All right. Let's see. Will you please call the roll?
Representing the State Controller, Ms. Paquin. Representing the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Mr. Yamanaka. Here. Ms. Dillon.
Here.
Ms. Hendricks.
Here.
Mr. Keeley.
Here.
Ms. Higa.
Here.
Mr. Prezant. Here. Representing the State Treasurer, Mr. Ruffino. Present. Representing the Director of Finance, Ms. Miller. Chairperson Yamamoto, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to read my speaking notes first so that we all know what the rules are. Board will have a 10-minute public comment period at the end of each agenda item, and public comment after each item will be limited to agenda item topic. There will be additional opportunity for statements from the public for items not pertaining to a specific agenda item at the end of the open session meeting. Individuals wishing to speak at a board meeting should complete and submit a speaker request form to the CEO or any CalSTRS staff member, and which is located in the back. Each speaker is allowed a maximum of 3 minutes for his or her presentation. If there is not enough time for speakers to have 3 minutes, timing will be at the discretion of the chair. And the Teachers Retirement Board meetings are live, web streamed, and video archived, which are available to the public on calstrs.com website. So to protect the privacy of minors who wish to address the board, public commenters under the age of 18 may address the board, but CalSTRS will not live stream or video archive these comments. Public commenters over the age of 18 may be recorded and included in the web stream of this meeting. So members of the public may speak to the board during their allotted time, but audio or visual recordings from a third party are not allowed due to copyright issues. Okay? So we already called the roll, and there will, I guess, item agenda 1. Okay, for the approval of the committee agenda.
Move approval. Second.
Okay, there's Ms. Dillon moves, Ms.
Hendricks. We never use our last name.
It's after lunch.
That's why I always
After
just use the
lunch
first
slump.
names.
All right, Dana moves, Sharon second.
There you go.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, motion's passed. Item number 2, the consent agenda, which is an action item for the approval of the minutes of the September 5th, 2019 Benefits and Services Committee meeting.
Do you want to say that?
Yes, so members at your desk, there should be just a 2-pager of the minutes. We made some corrections on it, and so that's what we'll be voting on it right
You
now.
and Dana on that.
Yeah,
Together.
Okay, is everybody okay?
Sharon
There were
did
some
that all
corrections
on
of
her own.
names on page BS5.
Brian, you just gotta step
Okay.
up the game.
All right.
Step up the game.
An honor. You keep me on my toes.
Exactly.
Okay,
We appreciate you letting us keep you on your toes.
motion, please.
So
Anybody?
moved.
Second.
Okay, Bill moves, Dana seconds. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Just in case you
Abstain? Okay. Ms. Higa's abstaining? Okay, any members of the public who wish to speak on item 2? Okay. All right, that comes to item number 3. It's an information item for the annual members survey. Alyssa Dobbins, are you here?
There she
There
is.
she is. There she is.
Good afternoon. I am so pleased to have the opportunity to share with you the results from the 2019 Annual Member Survey. The survey's been conducted at CalSTRS since 2002. And over this time, the research project has really grown. It started really being very focused on the satisfaction assessment, just evaluating how our members' experiences and how satisfied they feel with CalSTRS. It's grown to include engagement. This year, we have included a substantial piece on member retirement preparedness. The research has grown because we've worked with a lot of great people. I want to just quickly acknowledge we partner with Jay Thomas of Thomas Ferris. Rose Agassi Solis leads the survey team. Michael Whitehead is the lead researcher. The list is getting longer every year. And this year we collaborated with a professor. His name's Dr. Hershey. He's at Oklahoma State University, and he heads a retirement research center there, and he helped us with some of the measurement. So without further ado, here we go. Key points. So we're going to just focus on certain portions of the report. The report included a lot of information on a lot of different variables. For the amount of time of the presentation, we selected to share a high-level overview of satisfaction, and that measurement remains very stable. And we're also going to show and talk about retirement preparedness. The bulk of the presentation will focus on that. And what you're going to see is a report out on how members, the activities that they're engaging in order to become prepared for retirement. We're going to show some data on perceptions of feelings about how prepared individuals feel for retirement. And finally, we're going to look at the relationship between those variables. Overall, what we're going to see is that as members approach retirement age and enter into retirement, the vast majority feel prepared. First, to talk about member satisfaction with CalSTRS overall, I mentioned that this measure remains very stable, and you can see that line looks pretty level across the years that we're showing. That indicates that 65% of our membership are, when asked, they say that they're either satisfied or completely satisfied with CalSTRS overall. We dig into the data a little bit to try to better understand. 65% is an average measure, but when we look at the data by age, we see this pattern, and it's a pattern that we see very consistently in our data. And that is, we tend to see fewer members reporting whatever we're asking about at the earlier stages and younger years, and as they near retirement, we see those numbers increase. We looked into the data even further. I'm going to go back just very quickly. What you see is, so young folks, there's not a huge percent giving those high satisfaction ratings. And we actually on the survey ask, why did you give the rating that you gave? And then there's text, and then we read the text and we try to understand the themes. And what we learned from reading those comments and from looking at the spread of the data is that younger active members are not dissatisfied. They're giving neutral ratings because they feel like they don't know CalSTRS and they really don't understand their CalSTRS benefits. And you can see this very clearly coming out in the comments. We know that member interactions are what contribute to members understanding CalSTRS. And so we look at the data, we cut it one more time, and we look at the data, and we compare members who have interacted with us to those who have had no interaction. And what you see there is that a larger percentage of those interacting with us provide the higher satisfaction scores. And just briefly to close on the idea of interactions and how important they are. In the survey, we asked members to tell us every way that they've interacted with us in the past year. And the vast majority of members have read they're receiving and reading the newsletter, they're visiting MyCalSTRS, and they're visiting the .com. We know that these interactions are very important. There's quite a bit of emphasis and effort put into connecting with our members and trying to engage them. And this is just an example that shows some of the products and services. And this will be talked about, I think, in a presentation that's upcoming in a little bit more detail. All right. Now we're going to shift focus and talk about the new research. We have been pursuing this topic for many years. Measuring it has really provided a lot of opportunity to learn. There's been some challenges along the way. So we've been working on it, I'd say maybe 3 or 4 years, and this year we feel like we have results that are substantial, and to a large part, that's through this collaboration with Dr. Hershey. Overall, we pursue every research topic that we take on with the goal of helping our members be more prepared for retirement. So we're looking for information that will be useful for operations. So to pursue this, we asked our members on this survey to respond to and tell us about really 3 different topics. The first of which was retirement planning activities. We asked active and retired members either what are the things that they're currently doing or what are the things that they did, and we asked about activities that we thought would be related to member preparedness. Then we asked members to respond and tell us about their perceptions, their feelings of where they're at with feeling prepared for retirement. And then we did some statistical analysis to really evaluate the relationship between the planning activities and then the outcome of feeling prepared, with the idea, the hope, that we'd find the activities that most strongly related to those outcomes of being prepared. So with that, I'm going to go through first the active data and then the retired data, and we are going to talk about things in that order. We're going to talk about what planning activities did each group do, and how do they feel about how prepared they are, and then we'll look for those relationships. So first, active member retirement planning activities are things that we think help people get prepared for retirement. So are they seeking information on retirement or financial matters? Are they performing basic financial management activities? And are they discussing retirement with other people? And when we asked active members, to what extent are you doing these things, what we see in the data is that members report they most frequently are managing a financial budget and gathering or organizing their financial records. The less frequently reported activities are watching television shows or listening to radio shows about investing or financial planning, or reading books on that topic. And if you look at the entire chart in the report, what you see is that if people are seeking information on finances, they're really doing it in quicker, shorter bursts. So they're reading articles or referring to brochures. That's how they're getting their information most often. Now we're going to look at the second piece, trying to evaluate how members feel about their preparation for retirement. So we ask active members, what are they doing and how are they feeling about this topic? And we did this by asking them, to what degree they had evaluated their finances in retirement. And when we look at evaluating finances in retirement, we're looking at things like, have you assessed how much income you're going to need in retirement? And have you assessed or predicted how much income you might have in retirement, either from your CalSTRS defined benefit or from some other source? And have you examined how much money you should be saving to reach your goals? We also asked more qualitative kind of perception questions about how on track they feel about where they're at with reaching their goals, and how confident they feel that they will have enough money to live comfortably in retirement. So in terms of evaluating finances for retirement, about half of our members report that they're doing those activities and making either initial or detailed estimates. And I don't have the age spread here. That detail is in the report also. What you see is that younger members are doing this less frequently. And as people get closer to retirement age, they tend to be doing this in a greater detail. When we asked members how on track they feel about reaching their retirement goals, 66% say that they feel like they're somewhat or completely on track. And again, you see that same pattern with the age ranges. The younger people, fewer feel that they're on track, and as they get closer to retirement, a greater percentage report feeling on track. Finally, we ask about confidence in having enough money to live comfortably. And this is the question that produced the lowest score, which I think makes sense. Confidence is about really understanding, and there's so many unknowns about retirement finances, especially when it's in the distant future, that it's probably just very difficult to feel confident when there are a lot of unknowns. But we see the same pattern. As individuals get closer to retirement age, confidence goes up. We calculated a preparedness score, taking each of those three measures into account, combined those three measures so that we could, so that we could evaluate where our active members stand in terms of being prepared. 49% of that total subgroup, all active members, fall in the moderate to very prepared for financially for retirement. And again, the same pattern in ages. When people are younger, the 20 to 29-year-olds, we see only 25%, but that number increasing to 78% as people reach retirement age. And then the part that we were hoping to do with statistical analysis was to evaluate and identify which activities related strongest to feelings of being prepared. And what we found was members who report being most prepared for retirement, these are the activities that they were involved with. They'd assess their net worth. They'd been discussing retirement plans either with a professional or with family and friends. They were reading articles, and they were gathering and organizing their financial records. All right, so now we're going to go through the same kind of data and step through it for retired members. And it's all the same concepts, but the measures are a little bit different because obviously now people are in retirement. So in reflection, they needed to tell us what they did to get ready. And so there's a little bit different questions to assess the same concepts. So we asked retirement members how important were certain activities in their planning for retirement. And we asked them questions about their investing habits, what they did about paying off debt, following advice from a financial professional, and so on. And here's what they told us. They told us, rated as most important to their plan, investing in supplemental retirement savings accounts and paying off debt other than their primary residence. They rated as least important having additional employer-sponsored retirement income and working in retirement to supplement their retirement income. Those things were least important to their plan. Yes, at least individuals indicate that they are not planning to work in retirement.
Right.
All right, and we see in other surveys that, in fact, people by and large don't work in retirement. And we see that with our membership, and you see it in published research about retirement across the board in other occupations as well. Even if people think they're going to work, they often do not. All right. So then we shift and we look at perceptions of financial preparedness. And we asked our members three questions. How successfully do you feel you prepared? How sufficient your retirement income is in securing your financial security? And how confident the individual is that they will have enough money to live comfortably throughout retirement. Fully 80% of our retired members report that they feel like they successfully prepared for retirement. 74% say that their retirement income is either sufficient or completely sufficient to ensure their financial security. And 71% feel confident that they will have enough money to live comfortably in retirement. Similar to the active member data, we created a combined preparedness score. Yes.
Back to the last slide, please, or the last set.
Yes.
And I guess I have this question on another slide that you might get to later. Did we break down any of these by age groups? So, or the time period that they've been retired?
So yes, and yes, sort of. So on the survey, we break the retired members into newly retired, and that's if they retired less than 5 years ago. And then enjoying retirement, that would be greater than 5 years. And we do that particularly because we know the retirement experience includes some adjustments, right? The first day of retirement is probably a little bit different than the first day of the second year of retirement and so on. So we break the retired population into those two groups. It is reported here combined because this data was extremely similar for both of those two groups. So we went ahead and combined it for ease of presentation.
But so then we don't really know if this number is lowered because we have a greater number of people that have been retired longer responding to the survey. So the longer they've been retired, the less their benefit is, maybe the less confident they are.
So
I'm speculating, but.
we don't know that because we haven't run the analyses that way.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think if we have the variables in the data set that we could compute that. It's possible that we could put that data set together. I think the thing that's important to know about this, and I'm going to just look up the numbers so I don't misquote. On confidence, right, 71% fall into that confident or very confident category. There's also a somewhat confident category, which was 24%, and only 4% fall into the not at all confident. And I think that number is important to know, and I'm going to quote statistics just a tiny bit. The margin of error was 1.66%. Given the sample size and the response rate and so on. So if you have a margin of error of 1.66% and only 4% falling into that not at all confident range, I think that these numbers are actually stronger than what it appears on the surface when you kind of look at it in a more detailed way.
Thank you.
Cassandra, did you want to?
Yeah, I think that, and at least I could ask you this, I think that some of this is also impacted by the period of time people are working. So if you have people that are working shorter periods of time, their benefit isn't going to be going to generate a fully replaceable income for them. Or there are also members that might be losing part of their retirement because of community property issues that they have that they are participating in. So, as a result, they might not be financially as prepared as others that had planned longer or didn't have to experience those same life experiences.
Bill, did you want to ask?
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt, but one of the factors that I was wondering about is it broken down in geographic areas? Given the disparity of, cost of living.
So it's a really good question, and I'm going to hedge a little and say I'm not sure. I don't think we have like zip code data in this particular data set. But I can address the question somewhat because you're asking about kind of what is each person's unique situation. It's specifically one of the reasons why we asked individuals to report qualitatively what their experience is. How on track are you? How sufficient are things? right? There's a judgment involved with that. There's an individual experience involved with individuals reporting that. We did it specifically because when we look at objective financial data only, it doesn't take into account cost of living, it doesn't take into account lifestyle, it doesn't take into account some of the individual differences that Cassandra mentioned. So a little bit we're trying to address that with the way that we're asking people about their experiences. We've also looked at these outcome measures, the perceptions of preparedness, in a second data set that we have where we have financial information and other information as well. And we assessed how strong, like, does this make sense? Is it related to people's financial situation? And the answer is yes. It is correlated with people's finances, but it's not a one-for-one correlation. So we're reasonably confident that this self-report of perceptions is telling us, it's telling its own story. All right. All right. So did we leave off here with the combined, creating the combined preparedness score? And we find 77% of our retired members fall into the moderate or very well prepared financially for retirement, with only 3% falling into that not prepared. There's a middle category as well. All right. Then we did that final statistical analysis where we looked for relationships. We wanted to try to understand almost what the secret sauce is, right, for people who feel most prepared compared to maybe people who don't feel as well prepared. What were they doing? What are they telling us about their preparation? And what we find is those retired members who fall into the highest range of preparedness, they report that they paid off their primary residence and they delayed their retirement, or they kind of worked their retirement schedule plan such that their CalSTRS benefit met their financial needs. On the flip side, those members who were in the lower category of preparedness, what they report happened with their plan is that they reduced their living expenses, or indeed they were working in retirement. And that brings us to the summary. I talked to you a little bit, our key performance measures, right? Satisfaction. In the report you see engagement and some service performance evaluations. Those numbers remain very stable. Our member interactions are really important. We spend a lot of effort trying to get it right, and it's important to our members. You can see it in the data and in their responses about their experiences with us. Active members feel more prepared for retirement as they get closer to that retirement age, and the majority of retired members are feeling well prepared for retirement. I think that's all I have for you today. Questions?
I always appreciate this because it's just good to kind of hear where members are at. And one of the things I've been thinking about more recently, and then just having colleagues like Dana who are, literally retiring, and hearing their perspective, how much does, I guess I realized, I got on the board 8 years ago. We are a retirement system, right? And we focus a lot about retirement and thinking about teachers retiring. And that language of retirement is just like so embedded in the culture. It's in our name. So but I've been thinking a lot lately about faculty I hang out with who are in their 60s, who are looking at, collecting their CalSTRS pension and the next chapter in their life, maybe going and, doing Peace Corps or something else. And so I just wondered, how much does your team talk about language and I hate the word branding, but branding, I guess. We have a big conference I help put on every year in our local, and we changed it from a retirement conference to a financial awareness conference. And we had 150 more faculty come. We had like 500 faculty there. We had faculty in their 20s, which I've never seen at a retirement conference before. We also had people talking about, living wills and trusts and things like that too. So, but I wonder, it's something I know I've talked with Jack and other folks about, and I wonder how much your team talks about that as we think about, getting people to think about preparing financially for the next chapter. And because to me, it's retirement now. I mean, I look at Dana and just go like, she's got a lot going on. She's maybe leaving our board, but there's a lot of life and a lot of contributions you have to make to the world left in you. And so, and I feel that way about a lot of people who are kind of changing jobs almost, like you're changing your hat or you're changing, in the next chapter. So can you talk a little bit about that? How much are you guys talking about that? I assume you read and talk to a lot of other systems about that. And I always just wonder if at some point, is there language we should be changing or ways that we can talk about it in a way to attract people to think about this in a different way than maybe just like this is the end of your career?
So that's a really good question. And yes, we do think about it, and we put effort and resources to it, because getting the language right, getting people's attention, getting them to understand, moving them to take action, right? Each of those things is really a bit of a monumental effort, especially with a young person that has other things on their mind and, the distant future of, post whatever age. Just seems almost impossible. So I want to address your question in a couple of ways and tell you as much as I can. I believe it was last year we did focus group studies directly talking to our members, and that's one of the topics that we explored with them. Should we be talking about retirement using different language? And by and large, we had the focus groups broken out into different ages, and we specifically focused on younger members because I think as we all get closer to retirement age, we think about retirement with the phrase retirement. But, a 20, 25, 30-year-old might be thinking about, financial planning as opposed to retirement. By and large, every single person said, yes, I'm not sure that I'll ever retire. I'm not sure that I'm thinking about retirement in the traditional or maybe current terms. My retirement might look, like something else, like a second career, or I'm going to start my own business, or there were a lot of different plans, and every single individual said, I know what you mean, I understand, and I don't have a better word for retirement. Like that word means, it means, we understand what it means, and it resonates with us, and we get it, which I thought was super interesting. I'm going to tie that to the research that I just spoke with you about. And on the survey, we actually try to be really careful. So I use the word retirement a lot, right? Nearing retirement age and so on. It just comes up. It's the nature of the research that we do and the business that we're in. But on the survey itself, on the questions, we try to frame the questions so that they're a little bit more specific and a little bit less retirement oriented, so that they resonate, hopefully, with the different age groups that we're hoping to learn about. And so when we asked about retirement, like those early behaviors, we didn't say, are you engaged in early retirement planning behaviors? What we asked was, how often, if ever, do you do each of the following tasks? And then we asked, we had them listed. Do you read articles or brochures? Are you visiting financial planning websites? Are you managing a financial budget? So this is specifically what we worked with Dr. Hershey on, to try to get that language and those items such that they would be relevant and resonate with any age individual.
Okay.
But I love that you said
You know what I'm
that
saying?
your attendance just changed dramatically
It was
based
like
on,
shocking. I was like, let's just try it, and we really could rebrand. We had this big, like, let's rebrand. And I was just, yeah.
and
So
you called it financial awareness.
Yeah, I think we called it it was Health and Financial Awareness Conference or something, because we were talking about health benefits and CalSTRS retirement. And, but I guess I'm just thinking a lot more about financial planning and financial literacy. We talked about this a lot over the last couple of years. And just that idea of whatever age, you need to kind of get your stuff together. You need to understand your finances and be prepared. So I guess I don't know, it's been making me think a lot more about, not the end of my career, but like, how to be financially prepared in every chapter of your life.
We tested words like, not literally the next phase, but we tried to call retirement different things, and we tested to see if it would help people understand, or if it would resonate, or if they would respond or engage with it differently. And at this point, what we heard from people was retirement. And I almost wonder if it's because, our group, we have a group of educators, right?
Could be.
And
But I think people like 55 and younger, honestly, retirement pension, it just all sounds like, I don't need to think about that till I'm 65. That's my reaction. If I wasn't on this board, I'd be in the same boat as all my, my friends are. You just kind of, and to me, our point is we want to catch you in the 20s and 30s. And so anyway.
And we're hoping with the results of this data, right? If we can message to our members that simple things now will make a difference, right?
Totally.
Managing a budget, right? That's not necessarily planned for your retirement. It's kind of just managing your financial well-being.
Yeah.
Interestingly, we looked at our data in terms of the percentage of our members who do some of these activities individually, like how are our members doing in terms of how do they stack up compared to national averages? Our educators stack up really well. We've got a higher percentage of members doing things like managing a budget and so on.
Teachers are smart.
Bill?
I was noticing that in terms of the survey, that almost twice as many responded in 2019 as did in 2018. Is there any reason for that? Is it an increase in membership, and as you look back, it seems like this has been the most responses we've gotten over the last 7-8 years.
That you're very you paid a lot of attention to all those numbers we put in the report. So
Not all of them, I promise you.
Any of them that you'd like to talk about, we'd be happy to discuss. It's a great question, and there is a very specific answer. So the analysis that we ran, trying to use statistics to help us find what are the most highly related planning activities to that outcome, that statistic requires a large number of responses in order for it to run. So we surveyed a bigger group of members. I think we typically survey about 20,000, and this year we sent it to over 60,000 members, anticipating, we planned our hypotheses and we planned our research statistical analyses. We knew that we would need enough N to make the equation run and be successful. And so we strategized to try and get a bigger sample specifically. And we were really happy. We wound up with almost 400 responses in every age group, which was our goal. And that allows that finer gradation analysis of the age group data as well.
And just on that same point, have you noticed that there is a greater engagement of the membership as you go on surveying every year?
I wish that were true and would love to conduct a longitudinal study. And just about every year, we get a 5% response rate,
Okay.
which is about typical for an electronic survey.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I'm gonna take Ed out of order. Go ahead, Ed.
You're out.
Portfolio, CTA, and in doing your analysis, did you do your, am I on?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there, that's better.
Okay. In doing your analysis of retirees, did you do it according to do you have any information in regard to age, like 90 and 100-year-olds? And also, in relation to that, what was the response from the 90s and 100-year-old retirees?
So thank you for your question. We did not analyze the retired subpopulation by age. When we ran the statistical analyses, we held constant age, so that we understand that age plays a role. And so statistically, we held it constant. We didn't run those, they're called multivariate regressions. We didn't run those by age subgroup because you do need a fair number of responses to run those.
Okay. So in the method that you did electronically, isn't that?
Yes.
It seems to me that people that are 100 or 90 years old are not very apt to participate in that kind of a survey. Therefore, we have no idea if, in fact, the numbers could be impacted on the degree of satisfaction with their retirement.
So you're talking a little bit about whether or not we have a response bias, and I can tell you some things about that, and then we can look into it further if you still have questions and if we have the data to answer the questions. Back when we first moved to performing an electronic survey, I feel bad not looking at you, but I want you to be
That's
able to
okay.
hear me
No,
too.
that's fine.
When we moved to an electronic survey, and that was, maybe in 2011 or 2012, somewhere around there, we did analyses to see if it was changing if there was any change in the responses based on doing a paper survey and doing an electronic survey. And we just looked for differences, and what we did that year is we ran the survey both ways, and then we analyzed and compared and didn't see any differences. In this particular survey, we don't stratify and distribute by age, but we do look at our response rates, and our retired members responded a much higher percentage.
yes.
So we know that they're participating. In this particular survey, we don't have age data attached to records. However, I know you know because we've talked, we've collected demographic data this spring, and my recollection of the age spread on on respondents is that people of all ages responded, and we'll be coming back to the board in May, and we'll be able to, I'll note and particularly make sure that we have that for you so that
Right.
we can look at, what groups of ages do we have that are participating in this way?
Yeah. And if my supposition is correct, perhaps maybe in future surveys that perhaps we should be maybe mailing a survey to those at age 90 and 100 years old, since they probably will not be responding to the same degree. Or if there's another way of reaching them, that'd be fine too. But I think that we need to find out how that group is doing also.
So what I would suggest is let's wait for the next round of data to get analyzed.
Okay.
And let's see what we have in terms of respondents of those in different age groups.
Wonderful.
And then we could, depending on what we find, we could try to make a plan accordingly.
Great, good, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, if the committee is okay, we're going to just call on the next couple of people at the microphones. Dave, is that okay? Go ahead, Dave.
Hi, I'm Dave Davini, retired administrator, and I want to thank, first of all, the staff for including some multi-year comparisons. You heard what I said earlier, and it's always encouraging when you recommend something and it actually happens. So I want to thank you very much for listening and doing that. I want to also say that this is a wonderful publication for retirees. What you have in here, the segments that you cover, budgeting and planning and death benefit and all the other things, when you put this out and you start to serve retired members, you do more for them, and this is a service. When you do that, you'll get more satisfaction. I predict that as you do more of this, you'll get better results. And maybe in the service centers, retirees could be invited in groups, and you could present documents like this or services to them. There's no doubt in my mind that year-end cost or life-end cost for retirees is going up. The cost of living in California is going up. Retirements, in some respects, get less sufficient. I think that as this committee looks at what you can do for retirees, certainly not letting the death benefit decrease in value, that should be coded regularly, in my opinion. I think looking at, as May approaches, we look at the SBMA and purchasing power. I think members need to be aware of things like this, and this committee needs to be cognizant of the needs of retirees in all groupings. And there are things we can do, and I hope we step up and do them. And I thank you for listening.
Great, thank you, Dave. Leonard, is this on? Okay, go.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Leonard Goldberg, CTA Retirement Chairperson. I just had a couple points and a quick question, so I'm going to fire away. Sensitivity. Timing. When this electronic survey was, our invitation was mailed or sent out to our members, we did everything we could to promote it within not only CTA, but throughout all the locals, as it was publicized pretty heavily. The timing, however, was pretty insensitive, and I'm just point of information, May. That's, I mean, not that there's ever a great time for teachers, but May is probably one of the worst times as we're doing end of the year grad checks and grades, and it's just crazy time and testing. So next, I just wanted to point out the survey length in itself. I'm sure as I looked at the numbers, the number of active to retirees who physically had 30 minutes or more to go ahead and answer the survey. And I think it's important. I'm not putting the survey down at all. I think it's, you know, questions are questions you need to know. So I'm all for the survey. It's just very long, and I know some of our active members, I wasn't expecting high fives saying, hey, Leonard, thanks for telling us about that invitation. I looked for it, it went to spam, and I found it, so I did it. But I got to hear from a number of them that were disappointed the length of the survey and the timing, so I needed to share that. And finally, I just want to point out, we try and do our very best to make sure that our members are keeping their information up to date. But I'm wondering, out of the 60,000 plus folks, how many of those emails are old or just not even in service? So I just want to say thank you. And, you know, I'm 30 plus year member. I'm almost embarrassed to say this. It's the first survey I can say that I've participated in. So I don't know how I was left out. I know I've had the same email all these years. I was happy to participate. Thank you.
Can I go? Hi. Dr. Sandy Keaton, retired educational audiologist and previous chair of United Teachers Los Angeles Pre-Retirement Issues Committee. Sharon, I'd like to tell you that we changed our workshop to financial literacy, and we were able to give professional development hours to educators.
You just
So-
one-upped me on that one, and that's for next year then. Flex credit for all faculty.
So that has really worked in increasing our information out to our members. I took this survey, and I have 2 comments. I believe, and I'm trying to pull this from my memory, and I'm old, so I could be wrong. I think there were questions about financial advisors, like if have you used one or whatever. And my concern is that too many of our members think the guy in the lunchroom with the pizza that's selling the annuity is their financial advisor. So I think it really needs to be clarified. Are you talking about a certified financial advisor who doesn't sell product? So that was a big concern of mine. And my other was that on a couple of the questions, I really wanted to answer them in my own words. I didn't fit into the numbers or the slots, and I wish there was a place to just add in a few comments. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. And we try on our surveys to have at least one open comment box. And even if it doesn't come right under the question that you wish to comment on, please always include your thoughts. We read every single comment, and we go through a very detailed qualitative process to try to theme and understand those comments. So we're always happy to hear the addition. Do you want to go and ask? Or do you just want me to circle back? Why don't you share the distinction of the two? Okay, so Jan Spano is asking me to circle back to Leonard Goldberg's question. And I think that there's a little bit of confusion. This particular survey that we talked about today is the annual member survey, and it goes out in January. And so it wasn't the spring demographic survey. Both surveys, I acknowledge, are very long, and I'm honestly always a little surprised how cooperative our educators are for providing so much information. The advantage of having a long survey is that you can do all of this detailed analysis and try to get meaningful information that winds up being useful to our operations and providing the products and services that serve our members. And I'm very sensitive to the length. We look at every question and try to say, will it be useful? Does it really need to be on there? So agreed, the surveys can be quite detailed.
And you don't have to complete it all in one setting, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Correct.
Okay.
And we actually try to send the surveys at times that are better. So we did a survey that specifically asked members when it is best to do these surveys. And what they told us was during our breaks. So the annual member goes in January with the idea of it is a request to look back on the past year. So there's a time marker. It's January, it's pretty easy to look back on what happened last year, and we try to send it right at the beginning of January, hoping that people are not getting too busy with their semester. I don't know if that's a poor hope or not. In terms of the demographic survey that went out in May, we understood that it was going late in the school year and that that's a very busy time for active members. We specifically left it open well into June to try to allow some flexibility. Like it is a long survey. If you don't have time to sit down with it right now, perhaps in a couple weeks, if things quiet down and grades are submitted, you might have a chance to do it. So that was our struggle with that timing.
I have a little issue with the calendar and the schedule, and we do have a few more items to go. And we've allowed a lot of time for this item. Phyllis, do you have a comment or something that you would like to say?
Yes.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
I was talking about the survey we did in May. And we talked to staff because we had interactions with staff. But I was so excited to look for the survey because I had told my faculty about it. And so when I got it, I forwarded on to my faculty. Well, I started taking it, and then I got locked out because there was no indication that I couldn't forward that, and that was just for me. And so you may have gotten results, but it was from different faculty. It was another faculty that got back to me and said, that was yours. And so just to let you know, if that happened to me, I'm sure that it happened to other people. We were so excited to try to forward and get you information that it kind of was counterproductive to your study, and you might have results from 20 people on mine. So just let you know.
So
Identify
Phyllis-
yourself?
yeah,
Oh, I'm Phyllis
for the
Hall from Long
record-
Beach City College, and I'm a liaison for CTA.
Okay, did everybody get that? Did you get that?
Just, he just needs to get a
All right.
clicker.
So,
Can I respond just quickly to
Yes.
Phyllis? Phyllis, thank you for your comment, and you were not alone. But rest assured that the reason that the survey links go out the way they do is so that they do assure that only one person is responding per survey. And we did hear from a handful of individuals who were in a similar situation. Anyone that we heard from, we sent a new kind of fresh survey link so that everybody had their own survey.
so listen, does that conclude your presentation then?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
All right, so are you okay?
Oh, no, I have questions.
Okay, all right,
I'm ready.
all right. Dana Dillon, you're next.
So getting back into the item itself that's on our agenda, I just wanted to shout out kudos to staff, and because the staff evaluations are the highest they've ever been in all 4 years, so kudos to that. And the same with our service evaluations, they're higher than they've ever been except one category, and they came out the same, so yay on staff. Really appreciate that. I am interested, when I said earlier about age demographics, on the engagement attributes. And so I don't know if you broke those down by age or you have the ability to, but that might be an interesting talk point. And then the very last thing, because yes, I'm getting ready to retire. David, this is for you.
There's no bubbles.
There they go.
Wow.
Yay! So I'm gonna have more time to look at Pinterest. So when you look at the social fabric, the social media stuff we do,
Am I in Lawrence Walk right now?
that's it. It's amazing
I love it.
that we have 29,000 people following on Facebook, but we only have like 1,800 on Pinterest because I've become interested in Pinterest. So do we know, can we tell what boards they're following? So we have 1,800 people following us on Pinterest. Can we tell, because on our Pinterest site, we have stuff for active and we have stuff for retirees. I don't know Pinterest well enough to know if you can hit boards, if you can track the boards or not.